I never chose to go to therapy, but I've seen about 5 or 6 therapists. Not my choice. It was just like as soon as someone heard something they didn't like, they would put me in a new person.
I tried out a couple different therapists. I originally had a therapist who was a white male, and he misdiagnosed me with ADHD, which was kind of really funny because, like, if you looked back into my hospital records, that was clearly not what I was there for.
She would literally like stick her hand like underneath my leg, and she would be like, okay, all that negative energy, feel it in your arm, okay? She would take her hand out and like pretend as if like the energy just exited my body or something. And I would just be like, okay, that was my only conception of therapy.
Almost 60% of students coming in meet criteria for a mental health disorder. And then you can imagine that given the stressors they're going to experience during their college career, more might be needing mental health services. My name is Satinder. I'm the Director of Student Psychological Services here at Loyola Marymount University, and I started in the role in August of 2024.
What is different about being a minor in therapy versus being an adult in therapy, right?
Yeah, it's really hard when someone's had like a negative experience with the therapist and then they generalize it to like, well, every therapist is this way and every therapy session goes like this.
I think that's like if you've tried it when you were a kid, it is worth giving it a try as an adult and seeing if it feels different, because I think it really can.
I don't think I've been to therapy since I was like 14. At that point in my life, I was like isolating a lot from people, from my family, from my friends, and the thought of having to talk to a stranger about how I was feeling was like, oh my God, that's like a nightmare.
That is something that I really work on with clients, is for them, like meeting them where they're at and them feeling safe enough, like there's a relationship there where they can be their authentic self.
I've never been to therapy. I think I might have like thought about it like in high school maybe, but I'm not sure why I never did. I don't know if it was like a money thing or if it was like a do I tell my parents kind of thing. Like if I told my parents, oh, I want to go to therapy, like what would they say? I guess that's my first like question. They'd be pretty supportive, but they would ask why, and I'm not sure what I would tell them.
I think my mom was super hesitant about me getting help, not because she wasn't looking out for me, but because it kind of signifies something different within our community.
I would like to go back to therapy because I feel like I would benefit from it, because there's obviously like things I don't want to tell my friends and like my own things I want to work through, but it's such a traumatic like thought for me right now, so I don't think I could until I was like a lot older.
It's like dating, right? Like you're not gonna be fulfilled being with one person unless, I don't know, unless it's like the perfect match, but let's be real, like that's not how life works.
I would like to think I can one day.
I think the things that our clients worry about the world, about what's happening and the direction of our country and environment, like those are things that we worry about all the time too.
Every time I think about the state of the world, it's always brings me down in some way.
In the past like 6 months, since things have gotten worse, I've just like shut off even more.
I try and keep myself updated and informed on everything. I think it's important to know. I think it does cause me a lot of stress just because everything that's going on is so insane and unbelievable, and it's scary a lot of the time.
I'll check in to like the internet like once a week just to see what's going on. Like, do I need to be worried about anything?
I do think that the importance of being informed is something that as people take in the information, it's almost, how are they digesting it, right? So how are they able to make sense of it?
I think for me, sometimes I just have to compartmentalize, right? Because I can't, it can be a thought I have in the morning, afternoon, evening, if I let it.
And so I think often what helps is being able to have a sense of, what are my personal values? Do I have people in my life, close inner circle that support those, that I can feel that, reflect those, and we're sort of, it keeps me tied to a sense of community, and so I'm not in this alone.
I really just do need to connect with others on these issues to feel like I have this sense of belonging and like I have a right to be here too, kind of feeling.
I had a student ask about all the queer flags that are lining my office and said, like, what's up with that? Are you like a part of this, or are you just an ally? And I think that was the client really wanting to know, like, is this a safe space for me to open up about this?
I think similarly with students or patients who've been touched by cancer. When I was 19, I lost my mom to breast cancer, and so I wanted to figure out a way to use that experience and help other people and just really have compassion for others. I will typically say something like, oh, this isn't something I share with everybody, or I don't typically disclose this, and I'll talk a little bit about, my experience.
Yeah, I feel really similarly. I think it's about like our students feeling seen and understood by us, and when they know that they have a shared identity with their therapist, it can be really helpful.
After a little bit, I was able to find a woman of color who was a therapist, and that really sort of changed the game for me.
It's nice when someone can come into our office and talk with somebody who maybe looks like them or is from similar background or identity.
And I think, at least for me, I always like to be able to have a conversation with my therapist. And so when it came to the election, we were able to sit there and have this conversation with each other, and especially as like her being Mexican as well, being able to sit there and have that conversation, know that she feels the way that I feel.
I don't know if this ever happens to you where something happens in like a student's life and then you're in therapy and they're like, oh, I couldn't wait to like tell you about it. Or I think that's really like, I love that feeling too, when you're almost like this voice in their head too as they're going throughout the day.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to like the therapeutic alliance is the factor that really best determines outcomes in therapy. So like what your relationship looks like with your therapist. And so I think that like making sure that that relationship is a match is huge, and also helping to like really work on that match over time together, right? I'm like, I love it when you disagree with me. I'll say that to clients. Like, I want to know what's going on in your mind. I want you to know if you think that the thing that I just like interpreted was way off, like please tell me, because that's really good clinical information.
I would consider doing therapy in the future. Even on my good days, like where nothing bad is happening, like mentally, I would consider going to therapy.
Once I was able to find a therapist who really understood every single part of what I was going through, it like made the biggest change in the world. And I think, once my parents were able to see that like therapy wasn't just for broken birds, it was also for people who, might just need to unravel something small.
My perfect therapist would be someone who's older for sure. I think the older you get, obviously the wiser you are. I'd want to talk to someone who has seen it all, because they've lived life, they've made mistakes, they've probably seen people like me before who like might have similar stories to me.
My therapist is an insanely sweet woman. She is a mother, so she likes to talk about her son. She just feels like very human to me. She doesn't feel like, she is a doctor, but she doesn't feel like it. She feels like some sort of relative that I've known for a really long time. After years of being together, we can sort of treat each other as family.
I think that therapy is a spectrum. Therapists are a spectrum, and people are a spectrum as well. And people fit with certain types of specialists or helpers or therapists. So it's not exactly like I think there is like this one monolithic like therapist, but it's a wide range depending on who you are as a person and what kind of interpersonal relationships you want to have with a specialist. So
You basically tried one ice cream flavor, right? That would be like trying maybe Rocky Road and being like, I'm not a big fan of nuts, and so I'm just like not into ice cream. It's just not very good and it doesn't work for me. And I'm like, you may love this, you may not love this, but it is a different flavor of this experience that you've already had.
Therapy is like a relationship. It's like a friendship. And the same way that you go home and tell your friends about what happened that day, you can do the same thing with your therapist.
When I am thinking about like the whole list of problems that is happening in my life in a given time, I'm kind of trying to divide it into 3 different spheres, which are a zone of control, like what is fully within my control, zone of influence, like what do I have some power in influencing how something happens, and then what is totally outside of my control. And then really zooming in my focus first to put the most amount of effort in what is within my control, and then figuring out for things I want to influence, who am I going to talk to about this? What kind of support do I need from other humans? And being able to get closer to solving those problems.
Earlier, we've talked a little bit about stressors in the world, different experiences we witness, people we care about having, certain values that are under attack. And so I think of optimism. I think of the ability to maintain hope, have joy, right? Find ways to be creative or playful, to laugh, to experience positive emotions as these little acts of rebellion.
Yes, the world can sometimes feel like it's on fire, and it's a lot. But at the same time, when you connect with somebody in your office and like, oh wow, there's a lot of good out there and a lot of people who want to make a difference and who are still very hopeful and positive. And so I think you try to model that back to other people.
There's a whole world out there. There's a whole Los Angeles and a whole world out there outside of this, and just sort of taking some space and coming back.
It gets so much better. You have the whole world, your whole life ahead of you. Finding ways to cope with the bad helps you appreciate the good so much more.
What would you tell your younger self before you started therapy?
I think I would want her to know that the world isn't ending. And that even though it feels like the world is ending every single day, like, I would just tell her, like, you're about to graduate college, and, you got a really big internship. And that, like, you have amazing friends, and that the world isn't gonna end. That, like, you're doing amazing things, and your family's so proud of you, and whatever happened in that moment where you felt like you didn't want to be here anymore, like, every single day I'm happy that I'm here.